Michigan returns 3 of the most impressive Olympic redshirts, but is that enough to keep them in title contention? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah and welcome to Fanco Wrestling, where we do lineup previews every single week for the upcoming season. And this week, of course, we're talking about the Michigan Wolverines, and there are some exciting guys in this lineup. I'm sure you already know a couple of them, but I'm here to fill in those gaps for who you don't know. Now, last year, Michigan had a bit of a down year because so many guys on their roster, in their lineup, took an Olympic redshirt year, so they didn't wrestle last season. Unfortunately, that kind of gave the team a little bit of a slope in their year with a 7-6 record, but with a top 15 recruiting class this year, they have some solid guys in their lineup. So starting off at 125 pounds here, who do the Michigan Wolverines have? There are a couple guys here that could be competing for the top spot in the lineup. One of the first guys here is Kurt McHenry. Kurt McHenry is a redshirt freshman, number 37 in the class of 2019. Now, he's actually a 3-time Maryland state champ, as well as a Beast of the East champ and a Powerade champ. And those two tournaments are some of the most impressive in high school. So he has a shot to make the lineup here. But the guy who I think is really going to make the lineup is Jack Medley, who is coming into his senior year compared to McHenry's freshman year. Medley had a 19-12 record last year and is ranked number 16 at 125 pounds. Now, he was a starter here last year and was an NCAA qualifier, beating 7 other national qualifiers, which is darn impressive for him, and placing 4th at the Big Ten tournament. So he's also, one of the other impressive facts about him you may not know, is he was one of the only guys during the regular season to hold essentially to a regular decision. So he's got some fight in him, and he will be fighting for the Wolverines this upcoming year at 125. Moving on to 133 is the guy you probably know the most about, and that's Stefan Micic. Micic, of course, took his Olympic redshirt year last year and was able to qualify his home country of Serbia for the Olympics. Now, he is coming into his redshirt senior year, and this is his 7th year of competition. 7th year of competition. He is going actually for his master's degree in sports management. I think that's interesting to point out there. He's been through the so long in school because of 2 Olympic redshirt years and a redshirt year, and that's why he's in his 7th year of eligibility. But he is obviously hungry for a title after all that time, having not won a title yet, but making it to the national finals. He comes into his senior year ranked number 3 at 133 pounds, formerly losing to Nick Suriano at the NCAA tournament. And the year before that, losing to Seth Gross. Now, Gross, of course, is not in the scene this year. Suriano could potentially be a threat for him, but obviously he wants it. He's also ranked below Sebastian Rivera and Dayton Fix, who he has not wrestled yet, and he is going to have some tough lumps at 133, but he could be that guy that stands at the top of the podium at the end of the year because he is that tough, and 133 is just that tough of a weight. Now, moving on to 141 here. This is a pretty loaded weight for Michigan. I mean, you have Joey Silva, Drew Mattin, Cole Mattin, Ben Freeman, and Patrick Nolan, all guys who are very, very solid at their weights. Now, Joey Silva, as well, is coming into this. I think he is actually going to get the starting spot here next year, wrestling 133 last year, filling in for Stefan Micic at that weight. He had an impressive match with Seth Gross at the Big Ten tournament. So if you haven't seen that yet, I highly recommend that you check that out. He went tit for tat with him. It was just going back and forth. Every takedown that Seth Gross scored, Silva was able to get a reversal and get some points off of him. An impressive match. I think he's going to end up being the starter here, but you could see Cole Mattin start here, or Drew Mattin. Cole Mattin actually was the starter here last year, but I think he could redshirt this year potentially, or we don't know how that wrestle-off is going to turn out next year. Now, Drew Mattin's another guy, a redshirt junior. You know, you can see him. He's a 2-time national qualifier. This is one of those weights that's just all stacked up for Michigan, so you could see any one of those guys potentially start there. Now, but my money is on Joey Silva. Looking at 149 pounds, this is where he was originally an Olympic redshirt last year, but ended ended up pulling his Olympic red shirt at Midlands, and that was Cannon Store, who had a 21-6 record last year and comes into the 2021 season ranked number 9 at 149 pounds. He placed 5th at Big Tens last year, and was a 7-1 in Big Ten competition in duels, with his lone loss coming to Patrick Lugo during those duels. Now, he had some solid wins, of course. He had a loss, but he had some solid wins over Colin Puritan of Nebraska, and he is a 2-time national qualifier. So Cannon Store is a guy who's going to be able to come in and do very well for Michigan next year at 149 pounds. At 157, this is one of the last weights before we just get kind of crazy. Like, what's going to happen at 165 and beyond? I will explain that in just a minute. But 157 here, we have a couple of guys here, a couple of younger guys. Luan was 21-7 last year. 21-7 last year for Michigan and ranked number 14 at 157 pounds, which we know, of course, is a tough weight. And he did take a couple of those losses to the top guys, looking at Caleb Young, looking at Ryan Deacon. He does have losses to them, but he does have some solid wins. One of his impressive wins was over Taylor Romani of Pitt, as well as Justin Thomas of Oklahoma and Van Brill of Rutgers. He placed 5th at Big Tens last year, and I think you could see him do well in Big Ten competition again upcoming year. Now, 165 and beyond, like I said, absolutely bonkers. You could see anything happen here. I'm going to give you my best take as what I think is going to happen based on their lineup. 165 is loaded. You have 6 guys here who could potentially start at 165 pounds, and I mean more even if some guys bump up or down. But 165 here. Looking at guys, you've Logan Massa, Cam Amin, brother to Miles Amin, Tyler Masinger, Reese Hughes. I mean, this is just a stacked up weight. Now, looking at who could start here, Masinger is actually a senior, a national qualifier, and was the starter here for the Wolverines last year. So he placed 8th at Big Tens, was a national qualifier, and defeated Marcus Hartman. That was his most impressive victory of the season in an open, which I find to be an impressive victory. Hartman, of course, of Army. The other 2 guys here who I think have a better potential to start are Cam Amin or Logan Massa. Now, Cam Amin is a redshirt freshman, was 15-5 last year, a 3-time state champ from Detroit Central Catholic. He had a couple of nice wins last year in his redshirt year, opens, placing in opens, winning a couple of opens such as the Edinburgh Open, and you could see him bump up, drop down, or stay the same depending on where Logan Massa goes. Now, right now, I have Logan Massa at 165, and he's actually ranked number 5 at 165. He took that Olympic redshirt year wrestling at 74 kilograms, and the reason I have him at 65 is because 74 kilos, if you don't know, is right around 165 pounds. It's actually 163, but right around 165, and that's why, staying lean, staying that weight for the Olympics, I don't think you're going to see him bump up to 174. The other reason here is he's actually defeated Mikhail Lewis in the past. Now, not in folk style. This was at senior nationals in freestyle. However, it's got to count a little bit for something, just a little bit of a style mix-up that he got a hold of and was able to see what he was all about. He also does have wins over Alex Marinelli and Evan Wick, as well as Isaiah White. So he's had some impressive victories throughout his entire career. He is a 3-time qualifier and an All-American. So that's why I have Massa at 165. Moving on to 174 is where you have Miles Amin, who is most likely going to be the starter here, but I could see him actually bumping up to wrestle 184 pounds. And I'll explain why in just a second and who could fill in at 174. Now, of course, you could have either Mailer or Bullock fill in here at 174. Those are some of your options here. You could also have Cam Amin bump up to 174 if he doesn't bump down. I think he's a guy coming into his freshman year who could go any which way. But Miles Amin qualified his country for the 2020 Olympics of San Marino. It was 22-4. That was his last record in 2019, the last time that he did wrestle. Of course, Olympic redshirt last year. He actually is a 3-time All-American, placing 4th, 3rd, and 3rd, with the majority of his losses in the past actually coming from Mark Hall. Mark Hall just beat him time and time again, even if some of those matches were relatively close. He also had a loss to Zahid Valencia. Now, he does have some nice wins over Mikey Labriola, Dylan Leidy, as well as Ethan Smith, and right now he's ranked number 2 at 174 pounds by Flow Wrestling, ranked right below Michael Kemmerer, because those two have not wrestled yet. Now, unlike we're talking about Massa, Amin wrestles at 86 kilograms, which is 189 pounds. So that is a weight where you could see him bump up to wrestle 184 to fill in his weight for the Olympics. So that's why you could see him go anyway. But if he doesn't go there, these are your contenders at 184 pounds. So Jelani Embry is actually one of your main guys who's probably going to be the starter here at 184 pounds. He's an NCAA qualifier, placed 8th at the Big Ten tournament last year, as well as placing at the Cliff Key in Las Vegas, which is a major tournament in college wrestling, in D1 college wrestling. So you could see him bump up depending on what happens with the rest of this lineup and wrestle 197. That could be your starter there, but that's what's happening right there. He is actually currently ranked number 17 at the weight, so you've got an impressive guy there for Michigan Wolverines. Now, looking at 197 pounds, two guys here, Andrew Davison as well as Gage Garcia. Gage Garcia is a freshman, incoming freshman, number 20 in the class of 2020, a two-time Pennsylvania state champ who's also playing football for Michigan. What did you know? That's actually pretty darn impressive and great for Michigan football to have a wrestler on their lineup at 197 pounds. Now, Andrew Davison, I think, is likely to be the starter here. He's filling in for Jackson Strigow, who was the starter here, graduated since then at 197 pounds, was a junior last year, 2-2, injured after one tournament. So, it's tough to gauge how he would have done last year, but that's where he was. Now we move on to heavyweight, and this is another weight that you may know about, but I'm going to tell you first about some of these other guys. One guy I think is actually pretty exciting to know about is Craig Coral, who's a junior, was originally playing for the football team. I believe he still is playing for Michigan football, but decided to join the team this past January and start to wrestle for Michigan. He was actually a Blair grad out of Easton, PA. So yes, he is from that wrestling blood, and he is a heavyweight backup and a nice guy to train in the room with for your most likely starter here. I mean, it's going to be a starter here is Mason Paris. Mason Paris, the junior, was 28-1 last year, had a major impact on the college scene at heavyweight, gave Gable Stevenson some strong competition, some exciting match, was his match with Gable Stevenson at the Big Ten Championships. Now, Mason Paris had a big stride last year, is a two-time national qualifier, second at the Big Ten tournament, as well as a Cliff Keen Las Vegas champion. Only loss coming to Gable Stevenson. And with his wins over Trent Hilger, Anthony Cassiope, Matt Stencil, Tanner Hall, all of those wins are going to continue to stack up, and I think he's just going to keep adding to the resume. Michigan Wolverines have a strong shot at a national title with all of these guys in their lineup. Potentially, 3, possibly 4 guys making the national finals. That would be absurd. Now, if you're wondering about a couple of other wrestling lineups for the 2021 season, I'm going to have a playlist linked right here where you can choose whichever lineup you want to check out next. That is right here, so stop stalling and get on watching.